folks, hope you're okay. Welcome to this week's Training Tip Tuesday. It is the last one before Christmas, so I hope you have a very good time, a very merry time with your families, and whatever you're doing this year, stay safe and make sure that you're spending it with people that you care about, that care about you, and you have an amazing time, okay? It's the last Training Tip Tuesday before the new year, so we're making it a good one, and we're going to be looking at lat pull downs and pull-ups very briefly with that one. Obviously the common areas that we're looking at and the techniques that we want to be kind of taking on when we're doing the lat pull down. So we're going to head over to the gym now. I'm going to quickly get changed and I'll see you all over there and I'll speak to you all at the end. So we are starting with the movement classification like we do every week, and the first movement we've got to look at is shoulder abduction, and it is where the hands move away from the midline of the body. It won't be a lateral raise when we're actually doing the exercise, but you can see here that the hands are moving away from the midline of the body, and it's primarily the shoulders that are doing the work. You'll see this with the lat pull down in a moment. We've also got shoulder adduction, so it's where the hands are at the top and the hands move towards the midline of the body. So when we move it in a second, you'll see that the arrow is pointing where the hands move down towards the body. And this is done where we're performing the concentric movement. Okay, so the abduction is where we're doing the eccentric, the adduction is where we're doing the concentric. So here we've got scapular retraction, and it's where the shoulder blades are pinching together. We are also kind of showing that the protraction is happening, but we're looking at here the retraction where the shoulder blades come together or the scapula comes together, and you're going to see here as well now that we've got the scapular protraction. And the protraction is where the shoulder blades move away from each other, so kind of away from the midline of the body, and they're kind of moving out. And you're going to see this where we're doing the eccentric portion of the movement with the protraction. The next movement we have to look at is the scapular elevation. So scapular elevation is simply where the shoulder blades are moving up towards the ears. So the easiest way of remembering it is towards the ears is elevation. Obviously we elevate up, and that's where we're kind of going through the eccentric portion of the movement, and it's just allowing the scapulars to kind of unlock slightly to allow the lats to fully stretch. And we've also got scapular depression. Okay, so scapular depression is where the shoulder blades go down. You can see here that they're going downwards, and we want to be performing this part of the movement on the start of the concentric. Okay, so when we begin the concentric movement and when we're pulling down towards the chest or just below the chin, we're making sure that the shoulder blades are pulled down and we're allowing the lats to do the work. From here, when we're going up with the eccentric portion of the movement, we're performing elbow extension. So here the biceps are primarily doing the work, or the lats will be working as well and lengthening. And you can see here it's the way that the elbow moves away from the midline of the body, so it's going up towards the ear and overhead. Okay, the opposite of this is elbow flexion. So elbow flexion is simply starting at the top where we're contracting and we're pulling down. The biceps are primarily working, but the lats as well. And we're performing elbow flexion here, so the elbow is coming down towards the midline of the body. Okay, so it's the opposite movement. So it's where we're contracting. So the extension is where we're kind of doing the eccentric portion. The flexion is when we're doing the concentric portion. So onto the technique, reps, sets and tempo. Now initially I just want to say that I would always tend to ask people to be able to work on their pull-ups first and make sure that they're fatigued before we look at putting any form of lat pull down in, simply because if we can develop strength through pull-ups, we're going to find that our back thickness and our back width is going to improve, but also our strength through our back, through our kind of posterior chain in general. So we're not just looking at the lats, we're looking at the erectors, we're looking at the shoulders, we're looking at the biceps. Everything here with pull-ups is going to be predominantly overloaded. Okay, so I'd always try and do maybe 2, 3, 4 sets of pull-ups. Doesn't matter how many reps you can do initially, obviously just improve on them, because it's a great way of fatiguing the back and making sure that everything is firing. Okay, so when we're moving on to the lat pull down, we can typically do this anywhere from sets of 8 to 15. Again, it's more of a hypertrophy exercise. It doesn't have to be a huge compound. I think if you're going to apply it into your pull day, you may look at a rack pull or a deadlift before you move on to a lat pull down, rather than it being the compound exercise that you go with for your first exercise. Now in terms of technique, we always try and make sure that the thighs are underneath the pads. We can take an overhand grip, which is what we're working on here. In terms of hand position, there's a lot of different positions that you can work from. I typically tend to go when you have a bar like I've got here, where the bend comes into the bar, that's where I'll place my index finger. It's wide enough that it's outside of my shoulders, and it gives me a good range of motion with my elbows when I'm pulling down, that I can bring my elbows in close to my body as possible. Okay, so you can really see as I get to the bottom portion of the movement, my elbows are coming in as much as I can and really trying to squeeze my back. From the side angle that we'll see in a minute, you can see that I'm keeping a nice arch in my back. I'm keeping my chest nice and high. We want to make sure that we're keeping the chest nice and high, because this is going to be one of the common errors we're going to get to in a moment. But 8 to 12 reps, 8 to 15 reps is usually a good one. Again, it's not necessarily the main compound exercise that we want to be applying, because we can use pull-ups, we can use rack pulls that are going to help us develop the thickness of the back a little bit more, and we can overload the lats with a lat pull down. You can go wider than my hand position if you wish. There are a couple of other variations with maybe a V-bar where you can have a really close grip or like a narrow grip, and you can also use this bar that I've got here and do an underhand grip. There has been a few attachments made where you can have like a neutral grip that's semi-wide, and I think that's a really good attachment to have if you're someone that really struggles with an overhand position like we've got here. So I'd always make sure that you're comfortable with this hand position and you don't get any shoulder pain, because one of the exercises that we're going to look at, or one of the common areas we're going to look at, is a big causer or causation of shoulder pain. So you can see here that I'm really keeping a nice arch in my back. My chest is staying nice and high, and I'm pulling that bar down towards my chest, certainly below my chin. I'm keeping my chin tucked, and you can see from the scapular retraction and kind of the depression that I'm keeping my shoulders down as much as possible, but I'm allowing them to come up as I get towards the top. So we're getting that full extension at the top, and we're getting that full contraction on the way down. Again, like I said, probably sets of 8 to 12. 8 to 15 is usually good, and there's plenty of different variations that you can use for this exercise. So the common faults that I tend to see in the gym, the biggest one is probably going to be swinging, and what we're looking at here is people will get set up, tend to have too much weight, and will not have control of the bar. They're swaying a lot from the hips, and their back is almost taking them into like an inverted row. So be very wary of this one. We can have some movement, but not too much. The second one is poor mobility in the shoulders, or not being able to kind of retract and certainly depress the shoulders, and there's going to be a rounding of the shoulders here, and the elbows are winging back, and it's placing a lot of stress upon the front of the shoulders, so it's always something to be wary of with this one. And the final one is just a really big consideration, that we want to make sure that we're not pulling behind the neck, because this places a lot of undue stress upon the neck and the top of the shoulders as well. So I'd always recommend that you pull towards the front of the chest and the chin. As always, folks, if there's any pain during exercises, you should always stop and always seek a professional before a program. So there you have it, folks. That's this week's Training Tip Tuesday, and the last one before the new year. So I hope you've enjoyed the content. If you have, go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the content, and tag people in it so they can see it as well. What I want to do quickly is just let you know that in 2020, we're going to be taking on 20 online coaching clients. We are going to be looking for golfers who want to improve their handicap, their strength, their performance, their driving distance, their health and fitness, and everything in between there. So if you are a golfer who would be interested in improving those areas, or if you know a golfer who would be interested in improving those areas for next season, go ahead and go to the website, register your interest with your name and your email address on the homepage, and we will get back to you as quick as we can with the application process that you can fill out and get back to us. We are starting on the 2nd of January for obvious reasons. But if you are interested, get that application in as soon as you can, and then on 2nd of January, you could be starting working with us, and the 2020 season for your golf could be an epic one. So folks, thank you very much for checking out all the videos. I do appreciate the support, and I'll see you all in 2020. Peace out.